covered in blood. Seeing my best friend laying there unconscious is an image I will never forget. Her face looked almost unrecognizable, with a huge gash and blood running all across it. Her body was growing colder by the minute. We scrambled, trying to figure out what to do to help save our friend. I quickly ripped my blue shirt and tied it around her waist to inhibit the blood flow. In retrospect, I felt completely helpless, but oddly also empowered by the fact that at this moment I had to do anything I could to save the life of someone I truly cared about. It was the beginning of summer when my sister told me about this park where she laid out in the sun and went cliff jumping into the water. So shortly afterwards, my friends and I decided that we would spice up our seemingly uneventful summer and head to the Robert E. Lee Park. When we got there, we realized that we needed to hike a few miles to reach this special place where we could go cliff jumping. We were really excited and eager for this adventure. Finally, after an hour of walking, we arrived at the site and laid our towels down at the top of the cliff. The cliff was very high and alarming. At that moment, I realized that we would have to jump really far out to clear a bunch of jagged rocks in order to land safely into the water. My friend Kara was so eager and anxious to jump first that she quickly began to count down from 3. Not giving Annie or I any time to debate the idea, throwing herself over the cliff for this seemingly long-awaited thrill, instantly I knew something was wrong. She seemed to have slipped a little in her rushed attempt to launch herself outwards, and I could tell immediately that she didn't jump out far enough to clear the rocks. I rushed to the edge, looked over, and saw her lifeless body all the way down at the base of the cliff. My heart started pounding in my chest, and my mind rushed into panic mode. I ran to the edge and screamed down to my friend, begging her to answer me, but she was clearly unconscious. Immediately, my first thought was that my friend was dead. My friend Annie and I ran as fast as we could down the path to get her, and at one point having to jump over to the rock where she lay, lifeless. We had no service, and so we couldn't call anyone for help. We were on our own and knew only the two of us could get Kara out of this remote park and to a hospital. We placed a towel under what seemed to be her lifeless body, managed to get back across to the other side of the rock, and carried her several miles back to the car. I had never been so distressed in my life, as we had to carry her as quickly as possible, but gently enough not to cause any more injury. During this time, we knew that Kara was alive because she was in and out of consciousness. We put her very still body into the back of the seat and raced to the ER. The experience was so traumatic that it felt like an out-of-body experience. I was so terrified that my friend was going to die that I took risks that I normally would never think of doing. I drove through red lights. I cut off drivers who were in my way because the only thing important to me at that moment was to give my friend a chance to live. Once we arrived at the hospital, Andy ran into the emergency room and had the staff get Kara out of the car and take her in for care. At that point, time seemed to stop. Every minute we spent in the waiting area, not knowing she was going to be okay, was unbearable. The minutes felt like hours, and the hours felt like days. Kara's parents were notified, and about an hour after we got there, they came rushing into the hospital and were taken back to be at her side. All the while, I couldn't help but feel a wave of guilt over what just happened. If we were not so eager to find something different and exciting to do, we would not be in this situation right now. Finally, several hours later, we were given the good news that Kara was going to be okay. But the bad news was that she did so with 5 broken ribs, a punctured lung, a fractured femur, and a fractured jaw, and a broken nose. I felt as if I just experienced something that I hope no one else ever will have to experience in their life. I was overwhelmed by emotions and felt blessed that I didn't lose my friend. Annie and I witnessed a near-death experience, and it was the most horrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life. I believe that this horrible day changed me forever. There was a silver lining that came from this experience in that I no longer take the smallest daily experiences for granted. I filter my decisions through the idea that I may never have that opportunity again to enjoy that person or enjoy that experience, and that I may regret it for the rest of my life. I chose Costa Rica for my May program in part because of this day. Although I'm not the hiking and camping type, I thought that it was an experience that I should not pass up. I may never have that opportunity again. I check in with my sister more often, I spend more quality time with my parents, and I'm eager to take more risks than in the past, all because I do not want life to pass me by. My father asked me to go skydiving with him, and my first reaction was that he was crazy. I thought more about it and decided that I should not miss this opportunity and that it would be an incredible experience. This day rarely leaves my mind as it lives in my conscience, guiding me to more responsible decisions. I learned several life-changing lessons from this day. I realized that I could lose what I most valued in my life in a split second, and that decisions matter. I now understand that every day matters and that I shouldn't take any experiences for granted. I realize that we have a responsibility to each other, whether you are a friend, a family member, or merely a stranger, to look out for one another. Finally, as awful as this experience was for me, it made me more aware of what is really important in life and to make sure that I embrace it each and every day. My name is Taylor Donadio, and I'm finally a 4-year senior.